Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the most influential urban conservative talk show in the world. Yes, yours truly here at the helm. The Exceptional Conservative Show is coming to you live from Washington, D.C. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First the Republican and then the Democrat. Good evening, everybody, and especially those who are in the chat room. Dean, glad to have you here. Also, is that Joe? Joe, glad to have you here. And my beloved Mary Brockman. Smooches to you. Mary's my bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. And of course, Mrs. Biggs is watching via Ustream and live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no better way to start a show, especially on how do you police the politically correct, than a little bit of jazz, and more importantly, the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's start it off right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are starting off. And what a big day of stuff that's going on. Of course, in secret, well, now it's public, but in secret, the House decides that the 2-year plan, oh boy, socialism, the command economy is coming alive and well to us. The 2-year plan is the way to go. And so they have voted to send the bill on over to the Senate. The budget bill that does not assure any increases for the elderly on Social Security continues to decimate the American military, eradicating essential programs, at least I believe. And in addition to that, upping the number of people who will be filing for disability and succumbing the Social Security system to great havoc in the future. Poverty seems to be the essential guide in terms of Social Security. Maybe, just maybe, this was a plan. I hear now everybody's really jumping on the Cloward-Piven plan as a description of what's going on with our economy. And for those of you who are following at home, I'm going to give y'all a lot of stuff tonight. Of course, we're going to be releasing the Kraken at 10 o'clock. Yes, the Kraken is Ralph Chittum, Sr., DC GOP Vice Chair. Man, when he comes on the air, everything is all live. And we're going to talk tonight about policing. Let me just say that I was appalled with what I saw. Let me make this very clear to you, what I'm saying tonight, because sometimes people can interpret things or might associate certain characterizations based on their false or prejudiced biases towards conservatives. But what I saw from the gentleman who is a football coach and a gentle spirit, often working with young people in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, at the Spring Valley School, what I saw was at once discombobulating and completely appalling. It really was. Because that's what I saw. And it is very easy in our systems gotcha politics, now gotcha police, eventually gotcha citizen, or gotcha Christian. It is very easy to have individuals succumb to the concept that all police officers are bad, that all law enforcement are evil, and that they come from a wicked place. Thank you. People are chiming in. Thank you for tuning in to Ustream and Livestream. But I want to make this abundantly clear amongst all things. Hey, Kel. Thank you so much. There is a rule of law. At least it used to be a rule of law. Hey, Ag, glad to have you here. There used to be a rule of law in this country. I'll be honest with you. I got into trouble in school. I know you all can't believe that, but I got into trouble in school often, doing devilish things. I know you all can't believe me because this is SHRR night. And you all have this great and wonderful ideal of who I am as a human being. Yeah, but I did some devilish things in school. But never went as far as to verbally or physically assault my teachers. There was just a sense, there was literally a sense that there were some things you did not do. You just don't do. One of them is talk back to your teacher. You just didn't do it. The other was you didn't tell the principal where to go. You just didn't do it. You may disagree, but you just didn't do it. But ladies and gentlemen, what happened in Colombia and what's happening around the country is that we are allowing the rule of law to be squashed. I know what you're thinking. He wants that gosh darn conservative. Oh yeah, this is what they want to do. They want to beat you silly. We're not talking abuse. Rightfully, I was appalled by what I saw. But many of us reacted so quickly that we did not consider the whole story. I want to first take you to a story in California, the land of liberal milk and poverty. And this happened in Sacramento, the capital city of California.
This video, students are scrambling and screaming while a fight is breaking out in the Commons at Foreign High. The camera catches up to the fight, and as it does, students wrestle and slam a grown man to the ground. That man is Foreign High principal Don Ross, who gets right back on his feet and continues his efforts to break up the fight.
Okay, let me stop right there.
To break up the fight.
Let me stop right there. Because a lot of you are thinking, what are we talking about here?
Is Foreign High principal Don Ross, who gets right back on his feet and continues his efforts to break up the fight. He helps restrain the student who had shoved him to the ground, while a school resource officer.
A principal was slammed to the ground by a student during a fight. Alright, I don't know if you all have seen this. I don't know if you've heard about it. I know everyone's attention's on the little girl who decided to use her phone and cause chaos and havoc in the classroom. And of course, I am not saying that the action of the police officer was not excessive, maybe, but then again, the principal of the school and the sheriff agreed that it wasn't excessive, you know. But a principal in a school, Foreign High School, Sacramento County, California, IA, is slammed, body slammed to the ground. Body slammed to the ground in the midst of a melee. The student goes back and continues to fight. Principal Don Ross has to try to pull the student. Okay, now, Don Ross is not your average principal. I mean, or let me see, not your more than average, extra average, however way you wish to say it. This is an old man. An old man being body slammed to the ground.
The Sacramento Sheriff's Department steps in. In the first part of this video, students are scrambling and screaming while a fight is breaking out in the Commons at Florham High. The camera catches up to the fight, and as it does, we see a student wrestle and slam a grown man to the ground. That man is Florham High Principal Don Ross, who gets right back on his feet and continues his efforts to break up the fight. He helps restrain the student who had shoved him to the ground, while a school resource officer from the Sacramento Sheriff's Department steps in. The situation was quickly stabilized, according to the Sheriff's Department. Additional officers arrived, and 3 students were arrested, 2 15-year-olds and a 13-year-old. 3 school employees sustained minor injuries. We ran into a few coaches on campus who had seen the video.
So all of them were talking about, that's a disgrace to the school, how it's and they put it up online when it shouldn't have been.
These 2 graduated from Florham High about 5 years ago. They tell us they never saw anything like this during their time here.
Fights happen a lot, but not like to that degree.
We also caught up with basketball coach John Graham, who has some words of wisdom for any kids who choose to fight on campus.
What are you trying to prove? You're proving anything. Now you're going to get kicked out. Can't play. Fighting is not the solution.
Principal Ross did not wish to speak on camera, but he did want to emphasize that what happened here on Monday is unusual, involving just a few of the 1,500 students who attend Florham High. Many of them are achieving great things. At Florham High, Dennis Shanahan, Fox 4 News.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Now, I want you to know that there is no absence of retribution for the behavior of the young people. The 2 15-year-olds and a 13-year-old face serious charges, including making threats to students. They used to call that bullying, right? They call it making threats now. Also, making threats to law enforcement. And battery on school staff during Monday's cafeteria brawl. When we come back, I want to talk with you about the Columbia scenario and situation, and I also want to talk with you about something that happened in Washington, D.C. Every time we do something through Open Heart, Closed Case campaign, the mayor tries to get ahead of it. One of the things that they've done recently is they held a town hall forum. We're about to hold town hall forums in Washington on the 7th of November and on the 6th of November in Baltimore. Much came out of that particular scenario, at least much grief. When we come back, we'll talk about that, policing, and what do we do in America now that children can run the schools? What do we do? We'll be back right after this.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of the restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. So we're making a big pan. We use fresh Italian sausage, like a cooked good and chopped up. Our pizza is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and original. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs with lettuce and mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now, we're going to prepare our favorite Moroccan tilapia noodles, our fish and grits on the menu. And our meal is complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burger. So we keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck hand patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers. We're going to grill to perfection. After I flip the burgers, we add the sauce, and then it cooks all next to each We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
That's right, baby. That's right. That's mine. That should have been mine. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, you know how I feel about infused. You know. I love me some infused restaurant. Infuse.com. That's what I'm talking about. Infuse.com. Just the kind of place that you need to take your lady to for a good brunch, for a good time. I recommend it highly. And actually, you can go to them, especially on a rainy night like this. You can order up 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. Telephone number 301-449-9000. Infuse.com. I am telling you, woo, Derek Williams, Chef Arnold, they're off the chart. They're off the chart. Last night we talked, the Underground Professor and I, about a very special program. And I want to thank Agador for promoting it on Twitter. Stockings for Soldiers. Stockings for Soldiers. You can go to stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockingsforsoldiers.org. And there you will find, since the stockingforsoldiers.org is out of Delaware, men and women who are coming together to improve the morale and welfare of members of the armed forces of the United States of America deployed in harm's way. How do they do this? They accomplish this mission by sewing holiday stockings and filling them with special items for the troops. Many of the stockings that we send or that they send are for a specific person with their name on the stocking. So it's personalized. You touching the lives of a soldier overseas. For many troops, their gift is all they receive for the holidays. Now, they're trying to send a touch of home, as well as a personal message of support to remind our troops that we appreciate all they do for us, especially when they have a commander-in-chief at home that wants to slash their budget and their pay. And to let them know that they have not been forgotten over the holidays. They depend on the generosity of others. This is how they, listen, there is no stocking fairy who's going to come by and just drop off the stockings and the needles and the thread and everything else to make these stockings. So they depend on you. Stockings for Soldiers Delaware Incorporated is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. As such, donations are deductible to the extent allowed by law. Please consult your tax professional for more information about that. But if you would like to make a donation to their community project, please send your check to Stocking for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated, 1911 Folk Road, Folk Road, Wilmington, Delaware 19810, and they want to thank you ahead of time for the assistance. And I want to thank the benevolent dictator for Rick Trader of Conservative Commandos radio show for making this call to duty for all of us a possibility. One of the best ways that you can make this work is go to stockingsforsoldiers.org. I want to welcome you back to our particular program this evening. So much on the menu, but much attention has been given to South Carolina recently, and the guard who threw the child across the floor. One of the things that a lot of people are making the assumption that this was racial, that this was an abuse. This is not that. This is not that. This is simply that someone became a stalwart barrier to others getting their education. The child had been asked many times, many times, to leave the room. I want to play for you the uncut version of this, or at least portions of that, so that you get an idea. You know me, I don't like to, edit anything. I like you to get it, okay? But here goes. Okay, had a problem with that. Let me give you this particular version. And the camera is catching the South Carolina police officer throwing the student from the desk.
Well, sure, for a lot, he's out of town right now attending a law enforcement conference at this point. But he did see the video, and he was very disturbed by what he saw. As a matter of fact, he has questions. He has questions just like everybody else does. And he wants answers to those questions. Once he has these answers, he will address them. The sheriff and the school district, they're going to come together and they will take appropriate action necessary once this investigation is totally completed.
Here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, this South Carolina police officer, well, school resource officer, for those who don't know, has been asked in on this particular matter. Asked in. And the reason why he had been asked in is simply because everything else had failed. Everything else had broken down. There was a request made of the child to get out of the classroom. I know that people are firing off phone messages to me now. Yeah, but here it is. The child was asked to get up and get out of the classroom. apparently because the child took out a phone and decided that they had the right to use the phone in the classroom at the distraction of the rest of the classroom and against the behesting of the teacher. So let's go with this first thought. Do we not know the rules of the school? Can we go with that one? Do we not know the rules of the school? What are the rules of the school? Well, I would think that the rules of the school are these. While you're in the classroom, unless you're in an emergency situation, your phone and every other distraction has to be removed so that you might garner a personal educational achievement. Literally, if you were in a business meeting at work and you pulled out your phone and began holding a personal conversation with your husband about who's going to pick up the child at 4 o'clock for the daycare and who should have walked the dog this morning, do you not think, first and foremost, that that would not be recognized of good character by you in the business room or at the table? And then secondly, that you are a distraction from those who wish to do business. And in fact, you might be reprimanded. I would think you would be reprimanded for I don't know, being a disturbance, being a distraction. The little girl refused to surrender her phone, and I'm reading from the FBI Justice Department to investigate video showing South Carolina deputy tossing student. There we go. The FBI Justice Department are getting into this. They believe that something greater happened. But the girl refused to surrender her phone after texting in math class, was flipped backward and tossed across the classroom floor by a sheriff's deputy, prompting a federal civil rights probe on Tuesday. That's what the Associated Press, as of October 27th, is reporting about the student being body slammed by a South Carolina officer. There you go, body slam. That's not a body. It wasn't a body slam. I assure you. But apparently, the Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott suspended Senior Deputy Ben Fields and actually fired him, and said what he did at Spring Valley High School in Columbia made him want to throw up. Literally, it just makes you sick to your stomach when you see the initial video. But again, that's a snapshot. And I want you to understand, it is a snapshot. Now, should he have tossed her across the floor? Maybe, maybe not. But wait a minute. Why do we prosecute law enforcement in this regard when the girl was asked in this order, asked by the school when she started at the school, not to use the phone in the classroom unless there's an emergency situation? So there we go. Right now, and I'm quite certain maybe her parents told her not to use the phone in the classroom unless there's an emergency. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't. Who knows? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they say, hey, you know, honey, sometimes you just got to make phone calls when you don't feel like studying math. Maybe that was it. Or maybe it was a simple fact that the phone was given to her not only for personal use, but for emergency use at certain times. Apparently, there was a trust placed in the child that she would know when to use the phone and when not to use the phone. So, much of the attention has been placed on how she was handled when she was despondent and stoic in her protest against a police officer. But let's back up a little here. Is there not a personal responsibility in the classroom that begins at home and then spreads abroad? If this was your child, would you be upset that your child, of all the other children, especially when you're sitting at the desk at work talking about how black people don't seem to be able to make it? We always seem to get the shaft. We never seem to be getting a good education. Okay, I hear you. But wait a minute. Part of not getting a good education is simply because someone is interfering with you getting it. How can you learn unless we all focus on the same thing? Maybe she was doing a new app for math on her cell phone, and that's what the sheriff made this comment. He said, I think sometimes our officers are put in uncomfortable positions when a teacher can't control a student. How about when a parent can't control a child? I want to ask you this question, in all sincerity. Why was the deputy called in to handle this matter? I want you to understand. Deputy sheriff. Normally when you call in the police, and think about it, if you ever threw a keg party or whatever, some people get a little crazy. All over the place, you know what I'm saying? And they let loose and they do things which are quite disturbing to your neighbors. Your neighbor comes over. I know you're having a good time. I'm not trying to stop you from having a good time, but can you bring down the noise just a little bit? And so to appease your neighbor, you bring down the noise just a little bit. And then after you see your neighbor close the door, you skyjack that thing up 3 times louder than it was before. And so after an hour, I remember asking you, but we got a baby over here. Can you just turn it down just a little bit, please? And someone curses at that person or tells them we ain't doing that. Well, apparently, the societal rule of law, meaning that we are respectful of our neighbor as we are respectful of ourselves, has been broken. A social contract or compact has been broken. Thus, if 2 parties cannot agree, and one is clearly breaking the law, if there is such a rule, is it not the responsibility of the one who is being hurt by this to call in someone who can enforce the law? Now, normally at the point where there is enforcement of the law, there is the acceptance that the societal system has broken down to the point that it requires a stringent response. Yes, it's your baby. Yes, it's my baby. But guess what? When things have gotten out of hand, don't put your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me. I hear that often. There's a reason why people say don't put your hands on me. Because they have gotten out of hand. Out of what hand? The hand of public safety and public accord. They've upset the apple cart. They've chosen to do their own thing against the will of society. And thus, there are choices that have to be made on both sides. The little girl. Now, Lieutenant Curtis Wilson told Associated Press in an email based on a Fox story that we're talking from right now to keep in mind this is not a race issue. South Carolina's NAACP President Lonnie Randolph Jr. Said race is indeed a factor. To be thrown out of her seat as she was thrown and dumped on the floor, I don't ever recall a female student who is not of color being treated this way. So apparently, based on his omniscient thinking, his ability to recall back in the annals of history that he has never seen a white female thrown about, and apparently he hasn't been at Berkeley where they sprayed the white girls with the toxins in their eyes to get them out of the pathway. He can't remember that because it maybe doesn't apply to him. But Randolph said it doesn't affect white students. The sheriff, for his part, said race won't factor into his evaluation. It really doesn't matter to me whether that child had been purple. So what we have focused on is the methodology of the enforcement, with the enforcer dead. But why won't we concentrate on why the enforcement was necessary in the first place? The child was interfering with the class structure. When is this going to be spoken about? Probably never, because that child was tossed from the classroom. Now, what you did not see on the mainstream media, that's why, or the lamestream media, that's why I'm the mainstream, what you did not hear is that he asked her to get out of the chair several times, to leave the classroom several times, that he tossed her onto the ground. She did not get hurt. In a position that he could put the cuffs on her. Now, I don't know why you need cuffs, but by golly, she had become so resolute in not obeying the law. So I'm going to ask you all, while you're preparing to go to this next commercial break with me, to ask yourself, do you believe what John Whitehead, founder of the Rutherford Institute, a nonprofit civil liberties and human rights organization, believes? Kids are not criminals, by the way. When they won't get up, when they won't put up the phone, they're silly, disobedient kids, not criminals. Yes, they're not criminals. But why do schools need law enforcement officers in the building in the first place? You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. We're not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then the Democrat. We will be back with more of this good stuff right after this.
Hi, my name is Chris Wall. I'm the executive chef of the restaurant. And today I'm walking you through some of the meals that we share So I'm going to make it a big fan. We use French or Italian sausage. Cook here and slice it up. Our pizza is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs with some mixed vegetables. Served with jasmine rice and peanut butter. So now, we're going to prepare our favorite relaxing tilapia with our fish and chips on the menu. And our meal is complete. Let me tell you about our infused feature. We keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck, hand patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, grilled to perfection. After I flip the burgers, we add the sauce and let it cook on next to the we're gonna add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
That sounds so good. Ladies and gentlemen, Infuse Restaurant, 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. Infuse.com. It is the place to go to get the food necessary to carry on the affairs of the estate, the state, while you're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show. I am telling you, it is a good thing. And listen, you got Christmas coming up, you got Thanksgiving, Veterans Day, Huji Chakalia, something with that, Kwanzaa. You got Kwanzaa coming up. You have so many holidays. Kwanzaa's not a real holiday. It's not. It's socialism supreme, I tell you. But while you got all these particular events that are coming up, and listen, all men, some of us know how to cook, some of us don't. Okay, infuse.com. Have them make the food, you bring it home so you can treat the family, and they think you did all the work when they come home and they see that. All right, so there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital. That's Washington, D.C., to you and me. There is a war on law enforcement in America. Okay? There is a war. And I know some of you all think that I'm just...
Hey, I'm Chuck D, public enemy number 1, and joining the Real News Network to fight the radiation of a radio TV.
All right, thank you, Chucky. Thank you. I was not expecting that from Chucky. Was it? Why police matter, people. This is a former police chief who is writing this particular article called Improving Police. A veteran police chief discusses effective ways to lead, improve, and restore trust. He says maybe 50 years ago, 50 years wasn't enough. It's been that long since the day a shiny badge was first pinned on my chest. At the time, I felt it was an immense honor and responsibility to be chosen to serve my community as a police officer. I had just spent 4 years with the Marines. God bless you, sir, in your service to our country, and had some idea about service, honor, and protecting others. It was a privilege now, as a civilian, to be able to continue to serve, protect, and help people. Serve, protect, and help people. The best way for me to explain the important job of policing a free society is to let you know you policing is a calling, not a job. It is a calling for those who wish to help society function better, zealously protect the rights of others, and work with community members to resolve budding social problems. Others should not apply. He writes, the founders of our society were concerned about fairness, equality, and freedom. That's who we are as a nation. And that is our job, often delegated to police officers to continue that concern. Those who can best ensure that is our nation's police. This is because police work on the street with people, not in office buildings or courtrooms. And I would also say probably not in schools. We have a scenario and a situation in our society where individuals comfortably believe that they have the universal right to do as they darn well please. The police chief writes, he says, police are in our communities and neighborhoods to do just that, to make early detection of dangerous social gases or our ills, social problems, and the times when we don't live up to our nation's values. When you call law enforcement, you have already assessed the issue and the problem. The problem is an individual or a group of individuals who have determined to destroy the social fabric. I know, what I'm talking about tonight, a lot of people don't agree with me about. Okay, and that's why they're calling and trying to get through. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to turn away from taking phone calls during the show. Because this type of message is not getting out to urban America. The type of message that's getting out to urban America is this type. He was wrong for throwing her across the floor, so nothing she did before that matters. All that matters, am I on the air? All that matters is he threw her across the floor. He wasn't even trying to arrest her. He just, because she was a black girl, was picked up and thrown across the floor. Notice how the NAACP in Sacramento ain't making any comments about the principal, Dan Ross. I don't hear anything. Black Lives Matter, where are you? I don't hear anything. Because it's only about race when we can bait. It's never about the social fabric, which is tearing apart. Think about it, American. When you were growing up, did you need a police officer at your school? What happened between your generation and the next generation and the next generation to follow? What happened with those two generations that they need to be under state control and under state policing 8 hours out of the day? What happened? Well, was it jobs? Was it Social Security? Was it welfare? Was it not having enough black people in the courtroom so you, as jurors, so you just bar the case, you toss it? What was it that? Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at the shredding of the social fabric. We are looking at the point now where we are telling our children that we have left them in a state, a precarious state. They will be the generation far worse off than the generation that inherited from the last. We are telling our children not only are they worse off, but they have human rights. And as human rights activists, they have the right to do as they darn well please at any time. No one can put their hands on you, even if you're breaking the law, even if you're breaking the rules, even if you're devastating the opportunity for someone in that classroom who ain't getting math the way it should be gotten to learn. Why did she feel that she was above the law? Why did she feel that she was above the rules of the classroom? Why did she think she was above the rules being enforced by the teacher and then being enforced by the principal? And most importantly, the agent, the invisible hand of the parent in the classroom. Why was she not so fearful of her parent that she actually would pull out the phone to hold a conversation with someone? Why? And why is our answer back always that it's a racial thing? It is not racial to be disobedient. It is uncomely to be disobedient, and you must be subjected to the rules. Now listen, if she wants to be homeschooled, that's fine. Mama, get up off your job. Or daddy, get up off your job, come home, homeschool her. Let her use her cell phone whenever she likes in that homeschool setting. But unfortunately, as we have learned as conservatives on the campuses of America, where free speech is not allowed, when you're on the home court of someone else, you are the visitor and you must abide by the rules. Your rules at your home do not supersede the rules of the entity in which you're visiting. Now, if I went to the LA Lakers Coliseum to watch them play ball, and I was a member of the Washington Wizards, I do not have the right to climb up onto the ceiling and pull down Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's or Wilt Chamberlain's jerseys. I don't have that right. There are rules in the home court that you must observe. And if you don't observe those rules, you become a parasite to society. So what are you asking our police officers to do, who are the last line of effectual policing and control and enforcement? What are you asking them to do with your child, Mr. and Mrs. Parent? I will let you know, when I was a father of young children, if the principal called me for any particular reason, I would come to the school and find out exactly what happened. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I often defended my daughter, but not in overtly zealous disobedience. When I was called into the classroom because she had the same grade point average as the person they wanted to graduate valedictorian, and they wanted to make her salutatorian, I said, no way. They both had the same grade point average. They both showed up for school. They both excelled. They both did well. They both need to be recognized as valedictorians. But if I had to come to the school because she decided to create a black market underground economy in which she was the chief commerce person handling the transfer of video games amongst people for profit, yes, I had to step in. That's not allowed in the classroom. That's not, well, actually, I'm very proud of you for being such a capitalist, but that's not the point. The point of the matter is that there are rules that we must oblige and that we must follow. When we break those rules, we subject ourselves to enforcement. Why is your child so much more preferred than the other 20 children that are in that classroom? And I bet you if you're a teacher, you're sitting back and thinking, I'm trying to prep this kid right now for their SAT exams, for their PSAT exams, for the state exams, and they're coming up in just a few weeks, and I'm under immense pressure, first with Common Core, then with the local state education officials, and then with my principal who wants to get a 10% raise, so because you'll get that raise if a certain number of kids actually score proficient or higher. You know, I'm under immense pressure as a math teacher, not just a counselor to children who come into the classroom from broken homes. Not just an individual who has to make certain that the student who's in my classroom at least be able to comprehend basic math before even abstract math, that they'll be able to actually stand behind the counter at McDonald's and not need the little symbols that say Big Mac quarter pounder, apple pie, and french fry. That's my responsibility, is to make sure that this individual who's sitting before me, 1 or maybe 30, and in some classrooms 40, who's going through all types of hormonal changes whatsoever, dealing with all of the effects of the coach benching them from a game. I have to deal with all of this as a math teacher and then get them prepared to excel in the classroom and excel at life. And all I want to teach them is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's all I want to teach them today. I only want to teach them the Pythagorean theorem. I only want to show them how you can get x over on this side to equal y over this. And this is all I want to do today. But Shaquita over here decided, because I didn't show her preferential treatment, that she has the right to disturb everyone else from learning. Someone in the chat room said that Mama should have been called in. I agree with you, Mama should have been called in. But this is my problem with that scenario. It may have taken Mama upwards of 60 minutes to show up. She got to take off her slippers. I'm just making a stereotype. Put on her marching boots, according to the president. So we're waiting. While these students whose parents' tax dollars have gone towards property tax dollars have gone towards their education, they're waiting for her to get her act together so they can continue on. And guess what? Teachers are under such a situation right now that if they don't teach it right here, right now, and the kids don't get it right here, right now, there is no stopping under Common Core. You got to continue on. Listen, the plants on the wall, on the apartment. My wife would tell me that. The geraniums are dying, but I still got to keep teaching. This kid may not get the Pythagorean formula together in this setting. So what happens for the next 2 weeks when we're focused on the Pythagorean theorem and trying to get to... Bam! All of a sudden, I had the probability of getting an A if I understood without distraction, but now I'm getting a C, and now I'm getting a D, and now I'm no longer interested in the classroom. I think I'm a dummy. Or they think I'm a dummy, and I can't get it, and so I don't even want to show up for school. Do you understand how this one person's distraction could be so great upon everyone else? Yet, I'm told by the NAACP that my responsibility is to care for her being tossed across the ground because she refused to obey her parents, she refused to obey the teacher, she refused to obey the principal, she refused to obey the law enforcement officer. And somehow, it's racial. No, that's ignorance. And we need to stop doing this, Black America. Not everything is racial. Some things are just belligerently ignorant. When are you all going to grow up? And I'm talking not just to black parents, but to white parents, to Hispanic parents, to Asian. When are you going to grow up and say, you know what? You have a responsibility first to God, second to me, third to yourself. I expect you to act with dignity and with respect in the classroom. I don't expect for you to be a member of a gang. I don't expect for you to be missing classes because you're smoking reefer out there underneath the bleachers. I'm expecting that you perform and excel, and if you fail, it's not because a white man told you you couldn't succeed, it's because you chose not to. Why police matter? They matter because they are the last bastion aligned to keep order. When we tell people, whether it's Black Lives Matter or any other life matters, when we tell people that police don't matter, that all police are a certain way, then what we have done is crush our own society. When we come back, we'll be talking with the Kraken, Ralph Chittums. More on this right after this break. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live on Ustream, on live stream pre-recorded, and as well, all SHR in the world. Yes, SHR is tonight. SHR Radio live. We ask for you to be here and stay in the chat roll for more of the best in urban conservative talk. Ladies, you're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show. One of the things that we are encouraging people to do this year is to join us in celebrating our soldiers. Celebrate them. Become a part of Stockings for Soldiers. It can happen right here, right now. All you need to do is go to Stockings for Soldiers in Delaware. You can go to stockingsforsoldiers.org, stockingsforsoldiers.org. We will be back with more of the best in urban conservative talk right after this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all. That's what we're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you to the second half of the Exceptional Conservative Show on a special Wednesday night. Wednesday night is always so very special because it's Sackheads Radio Night. Sackheads Radio Night, baby. Sackhead Sean, Sackhead Clint, free Socko, free him. They're coming up at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Stay in the chat roll. Stay in the chat roll for the best late night conservative talk show in America. With a white wing in it! Okay, so. Alright. Okay, so what we're about to do is get in contact with a very good friend of mine. Someone who has been there with my family through the most trying days, is a spokesman for the Washington branch of the Open Heart Closed Case campaign, is a devout Christian and a wonderful scholar of the Word of God, a man who believes in Jesus Christ, a man who is also, my friends, chairman of the DC, well, vice chairman of the DC GOP, none other than my very good friend, Ralph Chittums Sr. Okay, so I accidentally did something. I did a no-no. I need to do this right here. Alright. So, we're going to get rid of that right there. Okay. While you're waiting, it's amazing that you do. I'm going to encourage you to stay in the chat room tonight. Sackhead Sean, Sackhead Clint, more of the best late night. They're funny. They're just really funny. I tell you. We're calling him now. Don't understand why well, Skype has changed, and so I'm trying to get acclimated to their change. There we go. We're going to have to release the Kraken, people. There we go. Ralph Chittums.
Good evening, Mr. Wonderful.
Listen, we're releasing the Kraken tonight. I know that you have been very busy, so we're not going to hold you long in terms of tonight, but you've been very busy this week. Where have you been?
Right now, I am speaking to you from the Grand America Hotel in Salt Lake City, where I am attending the 9th Annual World Congress on Families, which is probably the largest worldwide gathering of organizations that promote traditional family values and push back against the radical LGBT agenda, which is not just active here in the United States, but is also active throughout the world and is acting in concert with the United States government and the United Nations to push their agenda on developing countries throughout the world. So I'm here attending this Congress with some very powerful, like-minded people who are pushing for traditional values on a global scale.
Wow. And you're there with Lonnie Poindexter from Urban Talk.
Yes, I'm here. There are a number of American pastors and people who should be pastors, like Lonnie Poindexter, who are here to let the world know that the wickedness that's emanating from the United States, there is a remnant here left that is fighting the good fight of faith.
Now, some people are listening around the world and thinking, hey, all Americans believe that we should be aborting babies, especially in the impoverished nations of Africa. What better way to eradicate poverty than to eradicate people? All of us believe that, right, sir?
Oh, of course not, but that's what is being exported. And, I had to actually step out of a meeting to be on the show. I'm meeting with a number of countries that make up what is called CARICOM, and that's 15 Caribbean countries that are pushing back against the UN human rights agenda, which is seeking to force these sovereign nations to change their constitutions to remove the anti-sodomy language, which is still on their books. And they're telling these countries that if they don't remove their anti-sodomy laws from their national legislature, that the United Nations is going to withhold international aid. And the Secretary of State of the United States, John Kerry, is doubling down on that message by telling these countries the exact same thing. So we're meeting with these countries to let them know that there are Americans here who are willing to stand and fight with them against this proliferation of wickedness.
Now, we're talking to the Kraken himself, Ralph Chittums, D.C. Vice Chairman of the GOP. Want to take you right now to another issue that's really big in Washington because of racial issues. The FBI and the Justice Department are doing their own investigations in the Spring Valley High School matter in Columbia. I've been saying all night long that the investigation should not be on the deputy sheriff as much as it should be on the little girl who decided that she was more important than the rest of the kids in the classroom.
Oh, well, she was given a lawful instruction by her teacher, by her instructor. The teacher called out to an administrator. The administrator came into the classroom and gave this young lady a lawful instruction on numerous occasions. She again refused to comply. The administrator then had the school resource officer come into the classroom, who gave her, again, numerous opportunities to comply with a lawful request. He then decided that he was going to play let's make a deal with this young lady. He said, here is what's behind door number 1. You walk out of this classroom with me with some dignity. What's behind door number B, or door number 2, is we're going to carry you out of here like an ignorant person that you are currently acting like. This young lady chose what was behind door number B. She got what she asked for, and she should be grateful.
Well said, sir. In finality, because I know you got to get back into that meeting, and we're very proud of you for being there at the number 9 World Congress of Families. But is there a message that Urban ministers, pastors, priests should take from this particular conference, not just locally but globally?
The message is that there are more with us than we think. And when we're fighting a good fight of faith, even though you may think that you are alone, you are not alone, because there is a global army. And what this conference has done, it has put the different armies together, and God is allowing us to unite and form synergies. And when that happens, it's going to be amazing what the Lord will do.
Amen. Amen. Sir, I am so glad we released the Kraken this evening, and wish you the very best, you and Lonnie and all of the other pastors and ministers who have assembled there for life, and for our great nation and its culture that needs some changing. How can people stay in contact with you, sir?
Again, I'm easy to find on social media, RJ Chittum, CHITTAMS, SR, Ralph J. Chittum Sr., Facebook and Twitter, and my email address is ralph.chittums@dcgop.com.
There we go. Thank you, sir. God bless you all.
God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Ralph Chittums. We have released the Kraken tonight. And when we come back, I want to talk with you about another story that we should really concern ourselves with. Why is it that a woman out of New York was able to shut down Al Sharpton's Marxist network? How was she able to do that? We'll be back with more of the best at Urban Conservative Talk. We'll talk about that.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of the restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. So we're making a pizza. We use French or egg and sausage, and cook good and spice it up. Our pizza is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs with some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now, we're going to prepare our famous relaxing tilapia noodles, our fish and grits on the menu. And our meal is complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burger. We keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck, hand patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, it's really to perfection. After I flip the burgers, we add the sauce and let it cook on it until it gets We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
That's what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, your order should have been up. It still can be. 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. Their telephone number, 301-449-9000. Who am I talking about? Infuse.com. Infuse Restaurant. Ladies and gentlemen, their brunch is hot. It really is. It is a tremendous meal. And I encourage each and every one of you, especially those who will be visiting over the next couple of weeks as we have special events in Baltimore and Washington, D.C. I encourage you to go to Infuse Restaurant. Make it part of your plan for traveling to Washington. 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland. I am talking about, I love their food. I love their food. Something about it. Just everything about it, actually. I'm a food man. I can't help it. I really can't help it. If I could every single day do this in terms of food, I definitely would. Listen, the Reverend Al Sharpton said Tuesday he had dropped plans to deliver the eulogy at the funeral of slain NYPD officer Randolph Holder to avoid any controversy his attendance might cause. This is from the New York Newsday. Al Sharpton was cited or expected to deliver Randolph Holder's eulogy. Sharpton's office made the letter public. I refuse, despite my strong feelings on police issues, to be part of anything that would marginalize and take away from the focus of the city and nation mourning your son tomorrow. Sharpton sent a letter to Randolph Holder Sr. Sharpton's office made the letter public, so I therefore respectfully want to inform you and your pastor that I have withdrawn my acceptance of your invitation to attend or have words at the funeral services for your son. Now, according to this reporting, Sharpton changed his mind because after reading articles about the services, he feared that some union leaders and some others want to turn your and your pastor's noble efforts into some kind of confrontation or sideshow. So that's the remark. The letter says Sharpton had agreed to speak at the funeral after talking with Holder's father and the father's pastor, the Reverend Les Millings of the Community Church of the Nazarene in Far Rockaway. The services of the funeral were originally set for the Far Rockaway Church, but were shifted to the Jamaica Church because of the large number of law enforcement personnel and others expected to attend. Ladies and gentlemen, Officer Randolph Holder was assassinated. One of the individuals who's been one of the great deterrents, let's just be frank, Al Sharpton is not the biggest fan of cops. Just maybe he is, but everything that we know about him is the word no. Apparently Randolph's fiance, made the actual difference in what happened at the funeral. Her statement was that, let's just make it, can I read it to you from the New York Post? Do you mind, Mary and Ag? I'm going to read it to you. And Dean, do you mind if I read it to you from the New York Post? Here it is. Everything is fit to print. The Reverend Al Sharpton said Tuesday that he won't deliver a planned eulogy for the slain New York PD cop, Randolph Holder, or even attend the fallen hero's funeral after
it's been soaked.
After reading a post report about outrage among New York PD's rank and file. The exclusive report also revealed how Holder's fiancée, Mary Muhammad, said her husband to be detested Sharpton and never would have wanted the anti-cop activist at his funeral. I saw your story and I said, come on, this is going to be a circus, Sharpton told the Post. I had agreed to something I was asked, even though I knew I was going to be criticized even by people on my side of the movement. So he's a finger to the wind kind of man. Way to go, Sharpton. Way to go. Apparently, people tired of you. We're tired of you. Everywhere you speak, people burn stuff down. Right? We don't need that. We don't want you to come. Mary Muhammad said, we don't want you to come. My husband. Now, I want you to understand, an officer, Randolph Holder, the slain officer, is an African-American, black, colored, Negro, however way you say it. He's one of Sharpton's race. I'm not, because Sharpton refuses to recognize me as a black man. But Holder, or at least Holder was, I don't know if Sharpton still considers Holder black. Holder said, apparently to Mary Muhammad, that he detested Sharpton. He detested Sharpton. Now, Holder's stepmom, Princess Holder, said Tuesday that she was delighted that Sharpton backed out of the service. It would have caused a lot of controversy, she said, before heading to the slain cop's day-long wake. Asked if the family had requested that Sharpton not attend or speak at the funeral because of criticism over his planned participation, she said, nobody told him that. I want you to hear this. Al, Krispy Kreme, Sharpton, Al, the permanent Jerry Curl, Sharpton, did not go as he was invited because he was afraid he would be a distraction. We talked about distractions earlier. It's amazing how Al Sharpton, in front of all those white police officers, would be a distraction, right? Right? Is that racial? Is that racial? Apparently, Holder's stepmom said, we did not request that because we were made to understand that he was going to bring a letter from the president. So we said maybe he could just read the letter. He wasn't part of the program. Okay, hold up. Let me step back. Church folk. Church folk. Can we get to the real issue here? It was ego that killed the beast. It was ego. It wasn't controversy. It wasn't even Mary Muhammad's statement. What it was the family didn't want him to do the eulogy. Now, preachers love 3 different types of sermon. Preachers love them some Easter sermon. Preachers will fight to give the Easter sermon, because it's the last time you're going to see you for another year. Mother's Day is the second one, because the last time you're going to see all your mothers there for another year. But certainly, my friends, eulogies are what preachers, because eulogies bring such a large bounty of people from very distinct and different cultures together, and you get to be on stage and you get to elicit their salutations, and you get to electrify them with your words and your utterances and your meter hymn speaking. Yeah, this is it. This is showtime. And Al Sharpton, because he was not going to be the one delivering the showtime sermon, He was only asked to read the president's letter. Now, I want you to get this. I want you to get this. This is a black man who has been assassinated, police officer in Harlem. A pastor asked him to give the eulogy. The family wants him to read a letter for the president. Just a letter. The president of what? The NAACP? No. What? The president of Istanbul? No. The president of the United States. I want you to get because you're not going to get this from anyone else. I want you to get from my show, The Exceptional Conservative Show, live from Washington, D.C. I want you to get what he said right here. This is a paraphrase. That reading Barack Obama's words are not good enough for me to attend your funeral. I want you to let that seep in. I want you to let that. Reading Barack Obama, who is, I haven't paid taxes in 50 years. I owe $6 million on the taxes or whatever. I'm the $6 million man when it comes to, I owe all this, but he's invited me to state dinners. He's contacted me about Ferguson and supported me, and now I've lost my job at MSNBC because I'm no longer the useful idiot. I can't be used anymore by the man who's holding you down. I can't. I'm no longer important. Barack Obama's in his final year. I mean, most of the stuff he's done is either dying on the vine. Obamacare, 10 Obamacare branches, state institutions closed. I mean, the bottom line is everything he's done is failing. The economy is nosediving. The economists say 75% of economists, since they really believe in culture, climate change, and they always state that 90% of scientists. Okay, well here's one for you. 75% of economists say that we're not going to have more than a 2% GDP in the fourth quarter. Even with Christmas sales, okay. Barack Obama is on his way out. And Al Sharpton, who lost his MSNBC gig, no longer that important, no one's listening to Radio Run and you, has said that the words of the President of the United States are not so important that I show up to deliver them. That reading his words are not enough. Don't you understand who I am? I am the Right Reverend Al Sharpton. And you want me to read a letter from the President of the United States of America? Keep your funeral. Now, I wanted to give that to you because a lot of people wouldn't break it down to you just like that. But it's the truth. When we come back, more truth. The FBI director is at odds with the President of the United States regarding urban crime. And actually, his words are closer to the truth of what's happening in urban America than anything that Barack Obama could have possibly said in the past 7 years. You're listening to The Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. I'm yours truly, the exceptional one, bringing you the best in urban conservative talk, better than you've ever expected. I can assure you that. It is better than you ever expected. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Christian Wallen. I'm the executive chef of the restaurant, and today I'm walking you through some of the meals that we share here. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs with some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now, we're going to prepare our favorite relaxing tilapia noodles, our Bishop Redmond Let me tell you about our infused sheepherb. We keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck, hand-bread burgers, like half around the burger, really to perfection. After I put the burger, we had the sauce, and we took all that we're gonna add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
I wish that was mine. Wow. Man, I wish that was my 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. Pick up the phone. I'm telling you, what I really would like for you all to do in my listening audience, even if you're outside of Washington, D.C., I want you to pick up the phone. Now, I'm going to give you a number. Okay? I want to give you a number. And there is a method to my madness. Okay? There you go. It's 301-449-9000. While you're listening to the very end of this particular program, which virtually has been about policing, the politically correct. And there's no doggone way you could possibly police the politically correct because it's always racial. It's always to the detriment of society that you hold them accountable for their errant actions. They have preferential treatment. They are preferred above citizens. In fact, you could be an illegal citizen. It's an illegal alien. Can I say illegal alien anymore? Is that against the law? I always thought that doing a crime made you illegal. Crossing the border without permission makes you illegal. I just thought illegal alien fit. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But if you would, call that number, 301-449-9000. That is Infused Restaurant. Okay? Infused Restaurant. Just call them and say, I heard your restaurant on the Exceptional Conservative Show, and when I come to Washington, I want to eat there. That's all I want you to do. That's all I want you to do. Just call them. Or go to infuse.com and write that note to them. Hey, listen, or tweet them, or whatever. The bottom line is, while the quality of my program is garnering great excellence every single time I go on the air, the investing arm of the advertisers is missing, and so I want some advertisers. It's a shameless thing, people. It's shameless, but it's true. Want some advertisers? So tell them you heard it. And when you come to Washington, you plan to eat there. Tell all your friends in Washington D.C. go there too. All right. The heel blotter. Something we ritzy bourgeoisie, what we read about Capitol Hill. Well, the Hill Blotter, which is part of Roll Call, did a story today, and Brigitte Bauman, can I say it like that? Brigitte Bauman, actually it's Bridget Bowman, but she probably would prefer Brigitte, it's a liberal thing. Something about French and liberalism, it just seemed to, there you go, oh, what you hate, 301-449-9000. Just call them and tell them I heard your advertisement on the Exceptional Conservative Show. Keep it up. That's all. More than 300 residents packed into a charter school gymnasium in Southeast D.C. Tuesday night to hear from legislators and police about the recent spike in Capitol Hill crime. Now, we're hosting in Washington, D.C. on November the 7th, Saturday, November the 7th at 11 a.m. at Living Word Church, 4101 Martha King Jr. Avenue Southwest, a free public town hall meeting to talk about public safety. Now, on Capitol Hill, 300 people showed up. I hope 300 people show up in Southeast Washington, D.C., where the crime is really happening. And if any of you all would like to volunteer to support me in terms of this activity by sending it out via Facebook, sending it out via Twitter, let me know. I really would appreciate it. Or just do it. Just do it. I believe in the Just Do It program. You ain't got to tell me. You don't need my permission. Just do it. To all your D.C., Maryland, and Virginia friends. And on the 6th of November in Baltimore, Maryland, the Open Heart Closed Case campaign will be hosting an event there. And I'm quite certain on public safety that both in D.C. and in Baltimore, it should be standing room only. You want to send a message, urban America? You want to send a message, conservatives? Show up at either one of those events. I'm just saying, really. You always talk about if we could just get in there. Well, apparently, Kathy Lanier, police chief, Metropolitan Police. I already called it. That's where the white women at. That's my boy Sean is in the chat room at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com, SHR Media Live, in the chat room. Thank you, Sean. Always ask where the white women at. That's the most important question for any black man. Where the white women at? Wow, okay. Well, apparently, Kathy in there, and it's amazing how the D.C. government always seems to hold a town hall meeting or press conference before the Open Heart Closed Case campaign, which you can find at Facebook, the Open Heart Closed Case campaign, or you can go to theexceptionalconservativeshow.com and click onto the little tab that says Open Heart Closed Case campaign. Eddie Siplin, lawyer running for mayor of Akron, will also be in attendance for both the events. So what a great feat that would be to have if he wins, mayor of Akron, Ohio, at the events, each of them. That would be a boon. I really appreciate it. But Metropolitan Police Chief Kathy Lanier, Assistant U.S. Attorney Douglas Klein, and Ward 6 Council Member Charles Allen were peppered with questions about what's being done to address public safety. Let me give you a quote. Lanier says the spike in armed robberies is part of a changing trend in the District of Columbia, and catching the perpetrators is more complicated than putting more police in specific neighborhoods. Kathy Lanier says that this is not a police problem. I don't have enough police, and I wouldn't ask for more police. I don't need police. You don't need police. This is not a police problem. So I would like to paraphrase her and say that this is a culture change. That's what she was saying here. Changing trend in the district. It's a culture change. The culture of fear and death has taken over Washington, D.C. But Washington, D.C. is not alone. Not alone at all. In fact, thank you. You should put your phone on vibrate. I will. That would sit on top of it. Thank you, Dean. Thank you very much, Dean. I appreciate that. So, technology. Gotta love it. The culture of fear and death that Capitol Hill worries about deals with armed robberies, break-ins, and things of that nature. The culture of fear and death east of the river in Ward 7 and 8 deals with something else. It deals with violent deaths, murders, gang violence. And now when I say that kind of stuff on the air, and when I say it at public meetings, people look at me as if I have spoken Egyptian, speak to them from the old century Egyptian. As if I'm speaking Mandarin to the crowd. What are you talking about, Ken? Gang violence? Well, let me give you someone that you probably can respect, Mr. and Mrs. Liberal. That would be Chief of Police Kathy Lanier. Lanier says the criminal element has changed, and the biggest challenge we face now is 1. Street robberies and commercial robberies. Criminal street gangs. When I said that to McDuffie, who is chairman of the Judiciary Committee for Washington, D.C., he looked at me as if he was a little deer, little Bambi, with the lights coming towards him. What do? Do I move left or right? Oh, the lights look so pretty. McDuffie wants to win an election. He doesn't want to solve the crime problem. The crime problem keeps socialists in office. If they wanted to solve the crime problem, they would admit that this is a gang problem. Kathy Lanier has finally owned up to the fact that this is a gang problem. She goes on to say, criminal street gangs that organize around the criminal enterprise. It's criminal enterprise. Now, when I talked about marijuana just a few weeks ago, people were scoffing at me. They were like, and yes, we use the term scoffing in Black America. They scoffed at me. They said, oh, Ken, you don't know what you're talking about, man. There's no black market, man. What are you talking? Can I tell you? If you go back to last Friday's Line Chaser show with Lonnie Poindexter, where we were talking about, or maybe it was a week before, we were talking about the drug trade industry, and that somehow government being involved with marijuana eradicates the black market. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? When government involves itself in the black market, it exacerbates the market function. The criminal element reacts to the competition. And they don't react with a little letter that says, may we take you over for $2 billion and some stock shares. No, they don't do that. That's not the kind of takeover they're talking about. That's not corporate takeover. They're talking about a enterprise takeover, and they will fight to the death on the streets and kill those who enter in their way. Innocent bystanders pass away because the government is at odds with the criminal element. It no longer functions as enforcement of the law against the drug dealers. It now is a drug dealer fighting against criminal drug dealers. Can I make it any more plain than that? So what you have here is reaction. You call it K2 if you want. And I've seen people in the emergency rooms. I've seen them on the streets with K2. K2's at the killer. The killer are the gang members who have decided that the government's a threat, and the innocent citizen who doesn't have a weapon to protect himself or a firearm to protect himself is also our enemy. And I always tell people, listen, drug dealers never worry about their clients. They got those. What they worry about is you, Mr. and Mrs. American, who is fighting against them, who wants the border closed, who wants to get rid of sanctuary cities, who want to make certain that parents have to report that their children are missing in the first 24 hours, lest they be enforced against. And that children don't take over the classroom. Let me digress. Let me go back. Lanier says, not to say there's not drugs involved, there certainly are, but it is a different criminal enterprise, and two, they are involved in a very high number of robberies. Everything, and I want to make this clear to Mrs. Biggs, everything your husband said in that interview when we put down those crosses has come to pass. Everything, and you could, can someone get that? I was on local CBS station, and they were interviewing me regarding the crosses. I'll put that in tomorrow night. Everything I said in that interview has come to pass, and just now, that interview happened in the end of June. It is now the end of October. June to July, 1 month. July, August, September. Now we're 4 months into this, moving into the 5th month of November. And guess what? Finally, the chief of police says, you know what? That boy was right. Sure enough. Woo-hoo. Now, this is Capitol Hill. Lanier said that said the key to stopping these robberies is going after the groups themselves, going after the gangs is what she's talking about. Yes, you have to go after the gangs. You have to strengthen the laws in the district so that gang members know that you mean it, that they don't have the right to drive their car or to run or walk over your vehicle while you're parked onto their ATV. They don't. The FBI chief said, and let me just go to that right now, in Richard Prince's article in The Root, White House shoots down idea that police aren't policing and violence has increased because of cop criticism, even though Rahm Emanuel says that's the case. James B. Comey, who is the FBI director, said during a public hearing before the House Judiciary Committee on October 22nd, this is what he said. The available evidence at this point does not support the notion that law enforcement officers around the country are shying away from fulfilling their responsibilities. However, the additional scrutiny and criticism of police might have led to an increase in violent crime in some cities as officers have become less aggressive. If I know I'm going to show up on the air with your Black Lives Matter people running around talking about, what are you doing? What are you doing trying to hold that man down while you arrest him? Who's obviously K2'd out. This man has the pulse of police chiefs and police officers. His thumb is on the pulse. He understands what's going on in Sacramento, and in Los Angeles, and in Columbia, and in Ferguson, and in St. Louis, and Chicago, and New York, and Dallas, and D.C. He knows. He feels the pulse. He gets the reports. He knows that the tactics by the Black Lives Matter movement, the tactics of Al Sharpton and his network, the tactics by the Nation of Islam, all of those tactics have worked to put a barrier between the neighborhoods and the police. The police are afraid I know some police officers would say, "Ken, yeah, don't say that because that's not true. We're not afraid of anything." Yes, you are. You're afraid that 11 o'clock at night, your picture will show up on the air having arrested someone roughly because they decided that they would not obey the law. And that you would be the one who sacrificed amongst men. Yes! And it makes you think twice about responding to an incident. Catherine Lanier said, "We are not going to let up and pull resources back," noting other members of the groups are still at large. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to understand this. You don't. Richland County, South Carolina Senior Deputy Ben Fields has been fired. He was fired because a child would not obey her parent, a child would not obey her teacher, a child would not obey her administrator or principal. What do you do? Okay, and someday I'm going to talk about prison reform. We're going to have the great Bishop Wellington Boone visit us for both the Baltimore and the New York, forgive me, the DC event. I'm already speaking into fruition, prophecy there. The events. And he wants to talk about prison reform. When did jailing the bad guy become the worst thing the state could do? When? Is it not the role of a civilized society to eradicate threats against law and order? If you believe without a shadow of a doubt that the good people of our country would be well protected, well guarded, that law enforcement would take place without fear of repercussion. If you believe that with all of your heart, if you really believe that with all of your heart, if we continue along the pathway of the Barack Obama urban experience, someone codified Black Lives Matter as the brown shirts of the Obama administration. May not be. I'm thinking may. But when is it the right time for force to be used by police? And when is it the right time for justice to be served on behalf of the victim? And I'm not talking about the victim who grew up on the south side, you know what I'm saying, didn't have access to public education because there was a little girl with a flip phone in there who was trying to prevent him from learning. You know, he grew up in a broken home and everything, and he had no choices to make, or he couldn't make no choices, and he had to grow up, and he ended up doing the same thing his other people did. When is it a good time? And I'm going to speak to my urban conservatives right here, because there are two events coming up, one in Baltimore, one in Washington, D.C., and you need to be there at each one. You do. Even if you flew in, you should fly in to Washington, D.C. for the events. You fly in for a CPAC, and you're the only one there. I'm just... No, I'm with you, so that's two. On the things that matter, we should be able to give an answer for the hope that lies within us. Public safety is the thing that matters right now. All Americans are suffering from violent crime. All boats have been lowered because of the liberal response, the progressive response, the totalitarian response to violent crime. We turn our heads when people die. We underfund cold case investigations. We don't hold parents accountable. We, in fact, encourage children, as the Mao disciples did in China. We encourage the kids to create chaos, not listen to their teachers, and to take over the world. And eventually, nations fall. Order falls. Societies are split. Civilization becomes uncivilized. This is not the America that I want to pass on to my children or my children's children. You need to be in Washington, you need to be in Baltimore to stand side by side with me in this fight. No, I don't have any big ticket money. No, I'm not going to make sure that you have a patronship when I get elected. But there's some things that are bigger than politics, bigger than education, bigger than economics. Almost as big as faith. But certainly protective of families and individuals. That is public safety. No one can ever give me back my daughter. But I can fight so that you can keep yours. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Exceptional Considerate Show, live from the nation's capital. That's Washington, D.C. We'll be back with more tomorrow. Also, I encourage you to stay tuned for SHR Media, Sackheads Radio, Sackhead Sean, Sackhead Clint, the best late night program with free Sacco in the world. A man once told me that it is far better to die bravely than to live as a coward. I promise you, I always will. Always remember, God blessed America. Now it's time for America to bless God. We'll see you tomorrow.